how's it going? Welcome back to another great video with the majestic one. Yes, the one born from Satan himself. I mean, the one who is, of course, family friendly and wonderfully progressive, the Savior. Welcome. Yes. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the scary side of things. Oh, horror games. Haven't they just improved so much over the years? Honestly, they have. They've actually become a lot more nuanced. They've become a lot more cinematic. It's not all just about jump scares anymore. Games nowadays are very good at creating strong ambience and atmosphere and tension. Did someone say retention? Whoa, I'm down here now. I'm moving all over the place. You can't keep track of me. I know the modern day audience find it difficult to watch anything over a minute long. I know it must be very difficult having all of that goop and sludge floating around in your brain. Yes, it is very difficult. It's very hard to focus on a video now. So that is my Fort Solis review. I do hope you enjoyed this, my Fort Solis review. And oh boy, will Fort Solis test you and your attention, because this game is beyond slow.
Help! Please! Someone! I'm going to die!
And I consider myself a very patient person. I can watch a 2-hour-long video on Epictetus and not get bored, but even I found this very slow and very boring. And I don't think it's a bad game, so let me just quickly preface that. This is not a bad game. If you love cinematic, story, narrative-focused games, experiences I should say, because this doesn't really feel like a game, then you will enjoy this. But the problem is, now with modern day gaming, they are just trying to be too much like movies, okay? Too much like other media. The whole point of gaming, if you ask me, is immersing yourself in this world space and actually feeling that you have some kind of control, that you have some input, because you can actually do all of these different things. You actually have action and response in this game world. But Fort Solis, it feels like you are just simply watching another person. It doesn't feel like you are in control of anything. So what exactly is Fort Solis? Well, basically, this is a very dark, atmospheric, cinematic story game, okay? And it does deal with horror, of course, but pretty much this is a narrative experience. Think more along the lines of Firewatch instead of something like Telltale, because even Firewatch actually is not a great comparison, because this game doesn't give you any agency, pretty much. And I will talk about some things that you can do, but this game is very much just like watching a movie, because the developers have gone on record, and this is why I'm very confused about this game, because it has had some very mixed marketing, which is why I feel even more that I need to make this review for people out there who don't know anything about this and will get confused. Because in the marketing, the developers have said that this game is very much like Heavy Rain or other games like from Telltale and The Walking Dead or something like that. But actually, in reality, Fort Solis is pretty much a very stripped down version of that storytelling narrative experience, because even in games like Firewatch, you have the option to choose from different dialogue. You can actually choose what you want to say to some degree. Of course, it's not like a vast RPG, but there is still some customization, some player agency, and I find it very frustrating when games limit player movement and they make you walk. And this game does that constantly. There's only a certain point where you can actually have free movement. I think first person would make this slightly more immersive, and if you had some dialogue choices, but this game doesn't care about that. It just cares about telling its story. And for some gamers, I know there are a lot of people who like, a slow story. I personally love slow stories that are rich and mature and take time to develop, but this is a game, okay? The reason why games like The Last of Us are successful is because it blends narrative with gameplay. The gameplay doesn't even have to be that strong, it just needs to have some level of interesting, fun gameplay. The gameplay in this consists of you going up to an object and pressing a button to interact with it. That's it, okay? And occasionally looking through, some terminals, some screens, and listening to audio and all that kind of stuff. If it leaned into that player agency of a little bit more choice, and you know, this whole detective thing that is what's going on here, and I'm going to talk about that more. If it leaned into that more, then I think this would be far more interesting. Whoa, look at this, man. This is intense. This is some really next gen gameplay going on here. Look at this. I mean, this is a little bit too complicated. I'm personally worried for gamers out there, because I think this might be a little bit too intense. You know, when I said they needed to add some gameplay mechanics and actual some player response, I think they went overboard. I mean, this is intense, okay? Just bear in mind, this is the type of experience that you're going to be getting, and yes, this is very intense stuff. I'm not sure players will manage this, especially coming from such difficult games like Marvel Spider-Man.
Why did he tackle it? Hey, watch it. Oh my god, this is... I hate these damn birds. Go on,
Whoa, that's crazy, man. That's a lot of gameplay going on. I think that this actually makes games like Marvel Spider-Man look super interactive and much more complicated, because Jesus Christ, this is pretty embarrassing. I don't understand, okay? Games are supposed to be games. They aren't supposed to be movies. And I love strong narratives. You know, if a game doesn't have a strong narrative, if it doesn't have an interesting story, I'm not usually interested in it. But gameplay should always come first. And if this is the gameplay, then it's very disturbing. And before I dive into the positive and the negatives and the super detailed part of this review of Fort Solis, I quickly just want to say, do consider checking out my music on Spotify, consider becoming a member to support the channel, and you will unlock a whole playlist of extra content. And if you are a smaller creator and you want sponsorships, please join Stream Elements, a great partner who will actually definitely get you sponsorships. So make sure you join using my link. I know it can be frustrating as a smaller creator. When I started, I didn't get any sponsorships, but by joining them, you will have a chance to work with people like ExpressVPN and others, so make sure you do use my link. Okay, so enough roasting the game, because I still do think this is a great game. I've only played the early chapter. My hands-on have been basically just with the early game, so I can't commentate on the whole game, of course, but I always do my reviews early to give you, you know, the best possible experience, knowing what this game is going to be like before you buy it, because we cannot trust the gaming establishment and the industry as it is right now, with them releasing broken games, and we just don't know what we're going to get. It's all about marketing and stuff like that now, so that's why I do my reviews based on extensive research like I've done here. And basically you are trapped on Mars, and you will be going from, you know, underground bunkers to the actual surface of Mars, but you can't explore that much. And that's why I'm kind of confused about the mixed marketing on this game, because the developers have said this is very much like Heavy Rain or other games like that, but it's not, because with games like Heavy Rain, there was far more player agency. You know, it was still very much quick time events and all that kind of stuff, but your characters, you could play, you know, lots of different characters, and if one of your characters died, it didn't end the game, it would just change the game. This does have some different outcomes, it does have different endings, which is cool, but basically the actual choices that you make in this game, it's either you choosing to interact or not interacting. It's nothing super detailed or super complicated, it doesn't give you that much choice. So I think this is only going to appeal to the die-hard cinematic story game lovers out there, and for anyone who actually values gameplay in gaming, you're not going to find this that interesting. So you play as Jack, but you can also play as Jessica, and basically these two characters will be interacting a lot, and there's always going to be someone having, and there is a lot of conversation in this game, and I think the writing is done very well. It does feel very mature. Of course, they do have that little bit of, you know, comical banter going back and forth, which can feel a little bit forced at times because they've all got to be super chummy with each other, but the writing is well done here, and the good thing about this game is the fact that it does feel very immersive, like you are watching a high quality, you know, TV show or movie. It doesn't feel immersive as a game, and that's where I have a problem with it, but I still understand that it is very good, but just sometimes it feels pointless. Like, you can interact with things that add no value to the game whatsoever. Sometimes it's cool because there will be different dialogue depending on what you interact with, but at times it just feels pointless. And I just feel like they could have done so much more with the gameplay here, like leaned in more to the mystery aspect and piecing things together, but instead it all actually just follows a very set narrative path, and the developers have said that yes, you can explore at your own will, but that's not necessarily true, because when you're on a current objective, you can't just leave and explore, you know, outside or somewhere extra, you know, that is locked down. When it does open up more, yes, you can go and, you know, explore different rooms and unlock things at your own pace, but it's not as open-ended as they made out, I feel. So a positive is that the voice acting is very good. It has cast members like Troy Baker, if you care about that kind of thing, and the person who voiced Arthur Morgan, Roger Clark, you know, so the cast is very good. It feels believable, this world and ambience feels good, the soundtrack is amazing, the soundtrack and ambience is very good, and the tone is very well done, the lore feels very well put together, and it does feel very immersive. It's just annoying that it doesn't pull you in as a game, but more as an experience, if that makes any sense, because the music, the tone, all of that stuff is very well done, and it's like this bassy track undertone, and it just has sprinkles of electronic sounds that just sound very haunting, and they rise up as you get to, you know, more tenser areas and stuff like that, so it's all very well done. The lighting is also very nice, the graphics are very shiny, not that it matters, but of course it's trying to capture that photorealistic approach because, you know, this type of experience, it can't do anything else except try and look photorealistic, but the graphics aren't as amazing as some other games that I've seen, so, you know, I think that this won't age that well, but for now it does look nice. A small bug that I have encountered is the lighting sometimes glitches out and flickers, and that's just a big problem, especially when, you know, you're trying to make a game atmospheric with the lighting. Another negative I would say is sometimes when you're trying to figure something out yourself and you go off and you're trying to interact with something or go a different route, your character, like most modern day games, has this annoying thing where they just talk aloud to themselves and state the obvious. Basically, you're trying to figure out what went wrong in this Mars outpost, and there has been murders, there have been stabbings, and you have to basically figure out what's going on, what caused this, and I just wish they leaned into the detective aspect more, because anything that you interact with, okay, it doesn't actually add to your knowledge of what's going on, it doesn't change the game in that way. The key events when you're interacting with a body, for example, you will always find what you need to find on that body. There's no like missing things or, you know, piecing things together earlier because you've interacted with a key piece of evidence, which is a real shame because I think that would have been much cooler. There's only differences in, you know, certain moments where you can choose to do something, and that's it. And basically there are 9 areas that you can explore and discover, and some of them actually have secret underground areas which adds to the atmosphere and the horror aspect of what's going on. And then if you want, you can come back up for a breather. But the underground is really cool because this is how you can basically explore different areas and have a little bit more control over what you're doing. But most of the time you are following a, linear story. The choices in this is basically going down path A, path B, or path C. It's not so much that, every small thing that you interact with or, information that you find out will change the game drastically, which is a shame, but still it is an interesting experience. But still, it is a very interesting story, I would say, but I just think they just completely missed the mark on the gameplay aspect. It's really annoying what's happening with the gaming industry because they have the potential to tell such interesting stories. The Last of Us is interesting, the first one, because of its story, but it doesn't bore you to death because the gameplay, even though it's not super complicated, there is enough going on to keep you invested. This just feels like a slog to play, which is a real shame, so it's going to be either a hit or a miss for many people. But that is my Fort Solis game review. Please let me know what you think about narrative games and if it's okay for games to be like movies or if you think it takes away from the media. I think it's okay because the gaming industry is so wide now and it's so saturated that of course we can have different experiences, but the whole point of playing a game, in my opinion, is to immerse yourself and to feel like you do have some agency. And when a game takes away that and it feels very, very slow, then I think it is going to be a problem for many people. But please let me know what you think. And if you did enjoy this review of Fort Solis, please let me know. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace out.